Geeks at the Nerd Table, back at it for one last time for Skeleton Crew. All right, guys, we're back at it to finish off Skeleton Crew. But of course, it's not just me. We also have our first mate, George, in the house.
What's good, guys? Let's go talk about the Skeleton Crew finale.
Yes. The finale of the Skeleton Crew. All right, so we got 2 episodes left. Unfortunately, our third castmate is not going to be with us tonight. He's got some things going on, so our hearts and minds go out to him, of course. Cap will not be with us, but he's with us in spirit. And I know in brief talking to him, his sentiments are,
Yeah, I think we got that last episode, too.
Yeah. I mean, like, when I talked to him about it, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing that Star Wars has ever done. It was more of just like, okay.
Whatevs.
Yeah, whatevs. You know, I don't know about you. I'm kind of 50-50 in the same court there. Like,
I mean, let's dive in, brother.
All right, let's dive into it. All right, so episode 7 is titled... Wait a minute. I have the wrong title pulled up.
Oh, man. Where's Kevin? You need him.
It's We're going to be in so much trouble. Why do I feel like that is the wrong title that IMDb has for it?
No, I swear, I feel like that's episode 6, right? When they first got back?
No, that's episode 7. Yeah.
That was 7?
Yeah, that's 7.
Interesting.
We're going to be in so much trouble.
Okay.
And of course, that is the episode that they end up at Aden, just outside of it. And the pirates come in right after them. They also get the beacon distress signal that kind of tells them what they're supposed to be doing. So how'd you feel about this episode?
Honestly, I don't remember most of it. I know we were talking before the episode started, and it was like those 2 episodes kind of just blended together to the point of like it felt like one giant episode split into 2 episodes. I mean, obviously, it's continuity; it's going to continue, right? But it definitely wasn't anything that was kind of like, "Oh snap, this happened in this episode," blah blah blah. So I mean, for me, I don't recall most of it. It's more of the last episode where all the big reveals happened, and I feel like that's where we got most of the action.
I felt like this was a filler.
Yeah, it definitely was a filler episode, but it wasn't necessary because we needed to have that last final episode be the big reveals, this happening, that happening. So I feel like necessary, yes. Good, filler episodes aren't normally good. They're usually pretty like lackluster and blah, but they're there to set the story up for a reason. So
I feel like when I watched it, the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, let's go. Wanted to get the finale episode, get into it, and which is where we were saying earlier, right before we hit record, that this felt like this one and the last one felt like one big episode that they then decided to split into 2 and make them shorter episodes instead of like 1 hour long episode. Kind of thing.
It felt like they had ran out of stuff to say in this story, and they were like, "Hey, so we're at the finale already, but we're gonna just stretch it out as much as we can." And that's exactly what happened. But how much of they get to the planet? They're there. You know what I mean? They're under massive scrutiny. Which I don't recall if that was in the last episode or this episode, but
it's kind of in both episodes because right? they're under like scrutiny in the first half of the 7th episode with the pirates, and then Jack kind of takes the pirate captaincy back by
Mhm.
killing off the wolf guy. You know,
Oh, that is right. Yeah.
you know,
So there was some good
so
stuff
like
that
that
happened
was
in that
like more of a Jack setup episode of
episode.
like, you know, having him be able to become the captain again, put him in the position of power, and then flip the whole script, which had the weirdest. I rewatched it because I need to separate in my mind what these two episodes were,
Yeah. Mhm.
and it has the weirdest like kiddish like dibsies, no take backs. Like it was so weird. And right in the middle of the episode, the 33 is just like, you know, pirate code. You can only be the captain of one ship, and when you retake the frigate and
Yeah.
claim captaincy of that, you lose captaincy of this ship. And they're like, dibsies.
Yeah, that's such a weird concept, but I guess, I mean, when you think of like sea voyage and stuff like that, yeah, there's captains and then there's admirals and so on and so forth. So like, if they were following that lore, you would think they would make him like some type of admiral, and he'd be able to be essentially be controlling both of them through the hands of two other captains. Like if he really was to think
Right.
it through,
Yeah.
that would have made more sense. But yeah, let's talk because you were 100% correct. 100% correct that this was the guy from the beginning of the show. He put the mask back on for a little bit
Yep.
too, and it was kind of cool to see that kind of come back. And I was like, damn it, Frank was right.
Yep. Yep. I noticed that the very first scene. I'm like, oh, he's the captain. He's
Yep,
going to be the main guy that like,
called it, bro.
okay.
You called it.
But I didn't call it completely. Like I called him being that, but I was totally wrong on whether he was like pulling the strings all along kind of thing. Like he definitely was not
No,
in charge the
no,
entire time.
no. I
And
mean,
he definitely was on the outs with his crew.
oh yeah, definitely. After everything that happened with the first episode, and you confirming in episode 2 where the guy was like, "Hey, Captain," when they were in
Yep.
the caves and stuff. So yeah, you could see that they were definitely not happy about him. They didn't like
Yeah.
the whole situation that he got them in, and then the mutiny was obviously still kind of heavy because it was like these guys don't follow you. And then he tried to pull that whole stunt where he had the monologue, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just like, bro, yeah, like it looked like they were gonna follow him, and the next thing you know, it's like, yeah, shut up. It's like one of those moments. It was wasted monologue. Like everybody was sitting there. The one person that had it looked like clone trooper armor or whatever like that, but
Yeah.
yeah, he looked like a clone trooper. I don't know. It's kind of I don't know if it was a male or female. I couldn't tell. But yeah, that person looked like they were like starting to get like, oh, okay, maybe I could follow this guy, and then whack,
Mm-hmm.
sucks for you because they didn't follow you. But that's what set up the whole thing of him killing the guy and taking
Yeah.
it over that way because it's like if you want to follow pirate code, you have to take out the previous leader, and if that was the previous leader, in order for everybody to follow you, you had to take him out, and he
Yeah.
did, definitely did. So he
He
did the
did
right
his
thing. He's
job
fine.
then. He got it
He
done.
did, yeah, he had to do what he had to do because he was so adamant on hitting this planet, man. He was adamant, and the guys didn't want to follow him for nothing.
Yeah. And then so as we get into it, and then they finally, this is where I was so confused between the two episodes, and I had to rewatch it because I thought him actually them making it into the planet was all into the second episode. It wasn't. It was in the first episode, in episode 7, that they
Mhm.
actually do make it into the planet and then get down and see all the gold and everything.
Yeah,
And it was just like, holy crap.
yeah, because it wasn't that right before they went to go see who the supreme person was, or
Yeah.
what do they call it? Person, what is it? The
Uh,
supervisor.
the supervisor.
The
Yes.
supervisor, yeah. So this was
Yes.
even before they saw the supervisor. He saw the gold. He came in as the Jedi
He came in
consul
as the
or
what do they call him?
ambassadors.
He basically was supposed to be an ambassador. But they had another name for him. I can't remember off the top
Yeah,
of my head. I literally just watched it, and I cannot remember the
Geno
name.
sucks.
And I feel like that's also part of this show. Like, the show to me hasn't been terrible, but is it super rememberable?
No.
I don't know half the characters that they brought up names. I cannot, like, for the life of me.
I think I started realizing the characters' names for the kids after we talked on our last episode.
Mhm.
That was because we kept saying it, but it
Yeah.
wasn't anything that if I didn't say it, I would have remembered. You know?
Yeah.
Sucks because the kids were cool. They were good actors. They did their jobs.
Well, they did
They
they did fantastic actors, and I don't
yeah,
want to hear anybody say that like the kids were terrible and their job wasn't. They didn't do a good job. Like, no, they did a fantastic job for being
they did.
kid actors
They did
and
their
doing
thing,
what
man.
they needed to do. Like, they portrayed their characters. They portrayed what they were supposed to do, and I
Yeah,
know that's a hard thing.
they were just poorly written characters, man.
Yeah.
But I'll save that for I guess after when we talk about the
Yep.
overall feel for the show. But yeah, they get to that end, finds the gold, and then right before all this, they're talking about going to see the supervisor.
Yeah,
So and then
because
I think that's when
he wants to get the frigate down there.
right.
Because the other ship was the key to actually getting in.
Off.
Yes. But what was the cooler looking of that ship?
What?
Was it cooler looking while it still had like all the pirate armor on it? Or was it cooler looking when it ejected?
And that got shedded off, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all were riding around in this? Like, come
Right.
on. That thing, it reminded me a little bit of a Nubian. And
Yes.
very,
When I
very, it had
rewatched
some
them, I thought the
similarities.
same thing.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
thought it
oh,
was really
this is
cool.
totally Old Republic.
Yeah, definitely felt like an Old Republic ship. And it was really cool, but I see why it was on there. So originally it was on there because of the gas or the thing, whatever, where I was covering the planet and those little electricity bombs. So I think that was used to cover the ship as much as it can, just in case.
I think that's a lie.
You think so?
I think it's a lie because the ship was able to pass through, no problem whatsoever. They didn't have to do anything. It just automatically those little bomb things, those electric shock things, deactivate it as the ship got closer. So I think it had nothing to do with that. I think it had everything to do with hiding this ship. He stole this ship. The original pirate stole the ship and then needed to hide it so nobody else would come after them. So the Republic wouldn't come after them.
That sounds viable. I like that.
You know,
it would make
because
sense.
if somebody from the Republic saw that ship and went, "Hey, you're not supposed to have that ship.
Yeah,
you shouldn't know anything about these ships."
I mean, I wouldn't even think that because most of the Republic didn't even know about this planet.
True.
So it's like a very fine line about what I don't know the ship or whatever like that. Because I thought it was more of like a I don't know what's beyond this sphere of whatever engulfing the planet. Let me just arm it with as much stuff as I can to get it past just in case. I thought that's what that was. And then the fact that they found out that it was able to come off with that freaking crazy the animal or whatever they had. It was like in their grasp and stuff, which was a smart move, by the way.
Yep.
So smart of a move because I would have never thought of that. And then you see it just kind of like pull like it peels out like a snake and it just pops out, and then you see the ship. I'm like, that thing looks so good. What the hell?
Yeah, it was able to just keep on going.
Yeah, but that was smart thinking. And I think that's when the kids started to see like we are a crew. Even into the 7th episode, you started to see them really stick up for each other, make sure that everybody was okay, and even into the last episode with what's the kid's name? I can't forget. Obviously, we just talked about this.
Not KB, right?
No,
not
Evie. Not Neil. What's the kid? The main kid with the curly hair.
What's his name?
Yep, I know the feeling, bro.
It's just killing me. Like
It's so bad. It's something
he did a
simple though.
fantastic job. I just cannot, for the life of me, keep his character's name.
It starts with an H, right? Hey. I know Neil, I know Fern, I know KB. I forgot his. The
Uh,
wannabe Jedi kid. Oh, dude, it's killing me too.
no, that's his actual name, not
What the flip? This is where it was
Whim.
flipping.
Whim. Okay,
Whim.
it's Whim.
Yeah,
Yeah, Whim.
yeah. We're gonna go on a whim here.
Right. Going on a whim.
Oh, terrible. Anyway, but yeah, it was like he started to, step up his game a little bit. And going into that last episode, he does some daring stuff. So we'll talk about that too.
Yeah. So the last episode is the real good guys. This is the on the planet of Atten. Four friends must protect their home from the pirates while rescuing two hostages held captive by the pirate.
I like how they put
Uh,
it, the pirate.
yeah.
Like, you're gonna put the name. Was that
Oh,
a synopsis thing or something like that?
yeah, it's a little synopsis that IMDb gets, and it's just like
The pirate.
honestly, IMDb's synopsis of these episodes have just been so blah.
The kind of
But
like
I
the
think
shows, right?
that is literally like every synopsis of this show, no matter where you look at it, has just been like, yeah, this is what happened.
Hmm.
This is what happens. That's it.
You know why? Because nobody's watching the show, man. I had a conversation with a guy that I know, and he's like, I watched the first episode and I was completely like, what is this? And I'm like, and this is early on when I was like, maybe
Mhm.
like episode 4 in or whatever. And I'm like, oh man, you gotta give it a chance. It's not too bad. Just think of the Goonies. Like it's just the Goonies in space, you
Yeah.
know? And he was like, nah, I can't get around it. Even the Goonies for me was so good. This is not on that level. I'm like, damn, 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 damn.
I feel that
And
though. Mm.
I do too. And I really feel like it could have been more like Goonies. There was something about the characters, and get me wrong, there was stuff about the characters that were kind of cool. Like Neil was he was a cute character, man. Like the concept of him was cool. Him being a
Mhm.
little like nervous wreck, and then him finding strength in himself. It's something that we've seen in other movies, you know. And then Fern's situation being the person that was always a leader, but really learned to be a leader by following and hearing her team. You know what I mean? So like
Yes.
there was stuff in there that was cool, but it just wasn't done properly, man. And this is the problem with a lot of these Star Wars spin-off shows is the concepts are great. The concepts are
Mhm.
so good. And they're just not capitalizing on it properly. It's just not coming out the way it should be. And it sucks because I know, John Favreau was part of this afterwards after they did a couple reshoots, but it was a Kathleen Kennedy show also.
Yep.
Nothing on the level of Acolyte though. This is definitely better than Acolyte, but it wasn't top
Yes.
tier Star Wars quality. We're not talking like Ahsoka level. Ahsoka, beautiful,
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
but this wasn't that.
Yeah. This definitely it feels Star Wars. It looks
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
It plays Star Wars. It just doesn't have that same feel, and it doesn't have you don't get sucked into this like you are Mando, like you
Mhm.
are Ahsoka, like you
No.
are even the Obi-Wan series.
Yeah, that was good.
Like those sucked you in.
Hmm.
This has not.
Yeah.
I can't remember half the characters' names.
Well, it doesn't help when they
Like,
change the character's name in the episodes every time you see him. The pirate guy, he had 5 different names.
yep.
How am I supposed to keep up? And I don't know, obviously, if it was a version or it was done on purpose because as a pirate, you're not going to want to give your full name. We've seen that a couple times. Rebels, we saw, what's his face? Dang it.
In Rebels, who you talking about? The
The kid, the kid,
Ezra.
Ezra.
Yeah.
He called himself Jabba the Hutt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like it's a normal thing to do, but he always kept it to just like, yeah, my name's Jabba the Hutt. This guy had 5 different names, and I couldn't tell you one of them, not one.
The only one that I can remember is John Silver. And
Yeah,
that
I
is
don't
it.
remember that. But of course, they take the pirate name and make it into.
At one point, he's called Jack. At one point, he's called John Silver. At one point, he uses two different names for himself. I'm pretty sure in the finale, he calls himself John something, like a 3-part title, and then Jedi, which was his downfall.
And you know the crazy part, man? They didn't even go with the Star Wars name for this show for the guy. They went with John Silver.
Yep.
John Silver.
Well,
Like,
that's trying to go with the treasure planet, the
yeah.
um uh
Could have been Star Wars name, man.
trying to go
Ah,
with treasure planet, trying to go with Goonies, trying to go with that pirate feel,
yeah, I
not
think the show
Star
didn't
Wars.
have an identity. That's the thing. It
I feel
had
like it
a
had too many things, going for it.
yeah. It was trying to be too many things. But anywho, let's talk about this last episode, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So this last episode picks right up where the last one did. They are down in the vaults. The parents finally come in. We got that shot of John actually holding like the gold and like
Mhm.
cackling because it's real. Which, I mean, like that was a cool reveal. And then
Yeah,
having like the parents come in and him kind of like being forceful, but at the same point trying to pull off that he actually is somebody of importance.
yeah,
Like he pulls the lightsaber out on him.
yeah. Which is
Like,
not Jedi way. Yeah.
yeah, right? Um, and then from there we end up going to find out who the supervisor is, which all along I was thinking the supervisor was in fact a computer the
I
entire
I
time.
I started to get that feeling too because I'm sitting there. I'm like, the show is revolved around these droids, right? The Republic doesn't need droids because you got to think when we saw Mando, right? The Republic had a lot of people that were working for the Republic. Why
Yep.
do they need droids? So once I started putting that together, I'm like, the supervisor's a droid. It's AI. It's AI,
It's
and
AI running it.
it was AI running it. And the way that they were like observing, it was like Big Brother. You know, they saw everything. Human beings can't even come close to that kind of. You know what I mean? Like the eyes in the sky, there's not enough human beings to cover everything. Whereas AI, they were able to do that. All the droids were around, and I'm sure there was cameras that were all getting fed to the supervisor, who's
Yep.
then just feeding the information to the droids. So it's like it's just starting to make sense here.
Yeah. Well, then, and that's this this planet. They didn't. So the one of the interesting things is we seen another planet that I think is probably set up the same way that this one was,
Mhm.
and it ended up being a total civil war and a like post-apocalyptic kind of planet that fractions are fighting each other.
Mhm.
And this planet, the people chose to like this suburban planet decided to keep their suburban lives and chose to just give in to the whole like yep, this is the way of life and no questions
Yeah, because they all
at
knew
all.
about it. The parents even said it when the mom was talking to Fern. She's like, "You weren't supposed to find this out until you were
But
18."
she didn't know the supervisor wasn't a person.
Oh, that was for the gold, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah, with the I got you. Yeah, you're right.
They knew about the gold. They knew about this is essentially a treasure planet. This is the banking planet where all the funds are.
Mhm.
But they didn't know that they're just being controlled by a computer.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But it was in the writing was on the wall, man.
Yeah.
It was definitely there.
And then the whole reveal when the supervisor asks, "Who are you?" and John stupidly calls himself a Jedi, and he goes, "Funny! The Emperor told us that the Jedi tried to do a coup against the Republic.
Yup.
So clearly You are not the person you are supposed to be.
That was a crazy spin because I'm like, oh snap. Now it makes you think though, was this planet set up by the Republic or was it set up by the Empire?
I think it was set up by the Republic, but I think it ended up getting controlled by the Separatists more.
Hmm.
I wonder if this was set up by the Republic, the Separatists knew about it, that's why it became all robots instead of
Okay.
actual people.
That would make sense because Separatists was droids, but they would. If that was the case, I would have
And
seen
then
them use like.
Palpatine controlled the whole thing. And Palpatine
Sure.
turned around and said, "Oh, hey, the Jedi are out.
Yeah.
They tried to commit treason."
But how cool would it have been if they used a freaking droid from freaking Clone Wars for that? That would have been so cool.
That would
Instead of these like
that would have
iRobot looking
tied it
Tesla.
in more, and like
Yeah,
you
that would have been
feel
dope.
like this actually matters.
Yeah, it was like this planet is important because battle droids.
Battle droids, which
Yeah,
I
that would
kind
be
of was getting that feel of like upgraded battle droids,
I
but
was
not
getting
really.
Tesla bots.
Eh.
Like the
And then
last
everything
episode.
got shut down very quickly.
Oh yeah,
They just
and then
literally
there was
pulled a wire and all of the power
they
shut
didn't
down.
they didn't pull a wire. He wound up taking the lightsaber and jabbing the dang AI bot, and then they all died.
Yeah, and that was
They
it.
all went
They all
down.
deactivate it.
They all
The
deactivated. Yeah,
circuit got screwed up.
yeah.
And then that led to the rest of the parents going on probably one of the coolest scenes of the entire show, the whole speeder bike chase
Oh, that was kind of cool.
to
Yeah.
get to the central hub to repower everything.
That listen, the fact that uh Wim's dad was on that speeder with them, like keeping
Yep.
up too. So that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of cool to see because you can see he was one of those guys like I'm not used to this, and that's where all the kids are too. They're not used to that kind of adventurous thing, or whatever. So for them to like step out of their comfort zone, because that obviously suburban lifestyle was very comfortable for them, but for them to
Yep.
step out of it for the sake of their friends, sake of their families, sake of their planet, that was a big win there. That was a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I don't know about you, but out of the 4 kids, there's only 2 that I really care about. There's only 2 that I really care about. And there's only
KB and
2 that
Neil.
actually did something.
KB and Neil. Yeah.
KB and Neil.
Yeah.
Neil hopped on that gun
Yup.
to fight off the pirates and get KB on the ship and out of the planet
And
to get a message out.
dude, that almost broke my heart when we all thought she died. When the ship is falling down, I'm like, they gave us the one episode where we find out about her, and then next thing you know, they start putting her on the ship where she's falling to her death. Oh god! And then you wind up being like, no, she's alive. I'm like, yeah.
Oh man, that was
I was
totally. That almost
It
was
was.
the saddest scene of the whole entire series, and then she's alive.
I mean, shoot, we got Wim to hold the lightsaber correctly in this episode, so
yeah,
he held it up right the time.
he held it up right. The whole reveal that like with John was John Jack, whatever his name really is, was quite interesting. That he's actually, I guess, what you could consider a Boken Jedi.
No, I got something for you, bro.
Okay, hit me with this.
So there was actually deleted scenes of a how do you call it? Where there were scenes where he was younger and they showed his master.
Mm.
I forgot her name, but she was actually in one of the I don't know if she was in one of the Clone Wars shows or something like that, but she was revealed that she was or she was his master, whatever. They took it
Yeah.
out though because they didn't want to go too deep into the Jedi thing because they didn't want the story to feel like another Jedi story. You know, we didn't want Clone Wars style scenes again for the show because it wasn't necessary. It wasn't about that. It was about the kids. But yeah, they revealed that he had a master. He was in training. Uh, Went through Order 66, survived, wound up going into piratery to hide. It's crazy.
Mm. Well, because the way they said it, the way he says it is that like it was after Order 66, and she was desperate for like to find a Padawan. She found him,
I gotta find it.
started teaching.
They must have changed it because
They probably did.
Yeah, because that was what I saw, and I was like, "Oh snap! Here's the reveal for it." Let me see if I can find it real quick.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like that changes a lot.
yeah, and I think they maybe had that squared, or they probably took that out on purpose.
Yeah,
Skeleton.
because it made him sound like he was one of those, like he's like Ezra. He's trained after the Clone Wars. He's trained after Order 66 in the wilds, and not actually in the temple, which is why he's not like super good as a Jedi. You know what I mean?
So we got so his name is actually Jad Na Nawood. He was so he
That's a
was
lot.
it is a long name. That's probably the three names you heard at the end in the
Yeah.
last episode. So he was a survivor of Order 66. He was never found by the Order. Oh, he survived Order 66. Oh no, wait, that doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm reading the wrong thing. What am I reading here? Forget. Maybe I'm not reading the right thing there because that looked like it was a theory. Maybe it was a theory thing.
More a theory thing than
Yeah, maybe that was a theory thing I was looking at then. So he says what they know is that he knows the basics of Jedi teachings, but doesn't fully understand them.
which I totally agree with. He
Oh yeah,
definitely
totally.
knows the basics, but doesn't, especially the way like he'll be like, nope, that's not a Jedi thing.
Yeah. Dang,
Like,
I feel so dumb, man. Because I really did like that story because they had a picture of the girl that would have been his backstory involved the Jedi Master who was killed in front of. Okay, no, so here we go. Jude Law's character, Jad Na Wood's backstory is tragic, involving a Jedi Master who was killed in front of him. Jad was left alone and turned to the piracy to survive. So it said Jad was starving child living a hole in the ground. Jedi Master found Jad and recognized his connections to the Force. Jedi Master taught Jad some basic training and then was hunted down and killed in front of Jad. Jad was then left alone and then turned to piracy.
yeah, so that sounds all post Order 66, where they're hunting down.
Yeah, so
survivors.
he probably wasn't trained in the Jedi temple. He probably just found the Jedi and they were doing like some side training and then wound up getting killed afterwards. And then they were like, well, this kid's not a Jedi, don't kill him. And that's probably why he survived.
Yeah.
So he got some basic training.
Yeah, he got that basic training that, which has seemed so many have gotten that basic training after Order 66 of Jedi that just magically survived.
We can give you just the basics. You don't need to learn all of this. The balance is jacked up.
That balance was jacked up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the interesting story that we get for him. I mean, how do you feel? How is your take on the entire series? Because episode by episode, okay, interesting things, interesting reveals in this last episode. How do you feel about the whole thing?
You know what's sad, man? I after I watched the episode and I texted you guys, I'm like, this was all kind of predictable.
Mm-hmm.
The supervisor being AI, the X-wings coming in and fighting off the pirates at the end. You know, Neo having his big moment. I kind of saw all this coming. It was all kind of like written in the walls. And that's what kind of killed the vibe for the show for me. It was more like I've seen this before, and it doesn't feel new anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that it was a bad show, no, it wasn't a bad show, but it just wasn't a great show. It's not going to be anything I remember. I'm not going to go back and try to rewatch this series. I'm not. Um, and then here's the sad part. There's no continuation with these kids now. This was just a side story that we got. That's it, man. That's all you're getting. Was it nice to see some pirates in Star Wars again? Sure. I told you guys in a couple episodes ago, I was like, I want to see my guy Hondo. Hondo would have been a cool person to see, like just as a cameo, because he's, one of the biggest pirates that we all Clone Wars fans know from the series. That would have
Yep.
been cool to either hear his name, see something of that, it would have been dope. But yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't hitting, man. It wasn't hitting, and it's sad to say because I was kind of looking forward to the show. Then you got an actor like Jude Law, who's amazing,
Yeah.
and he did a good job with his character. But again, it's something that if you say Jude Law, I'm not going to think of Jude Law for Star Wars. I would think of him first, who was in Sherlock Holmes and other
Hmm.
stuff like that. Like I'll remember him for that.
I'll think of
But
him for Harry Potter more recently than anything else.
oh yeah, because he was in
Fantastic Beast. Yeah,
the
he's
Fantastic
in.
Beasts movies. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So again, it was sad to see how the show turned out because it could have been better. And we expect better as Star Wars fans. I think we got to the point where it's like we're tired of stupid shows. We just want great stories. And with them showing reveals of what's happening with Ahsoka season 2, just give me stuff like that, man. Don't give me
Yep.
these side stories. I don't care about what was the other show that was supposed to come out. It was Skeleton Crew, and then they had Squadron, something like.
Oh, I think there was two separate ones, which there was supposed to be some squadron episode, but then there was supposed to be
Yeah, the Rangers
the
thing.
ranger
Don't
thing.
give me that. Don't give me that. Don't care for it.
Well,
I
it
mean,
sounds like the ranger thing is getting enveloped into
the Mando.
Mando.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is fine. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I don't
which
know. I don't
also
hate it.
it was going to be a spin-off of Mando, and now
Mhm,
it's just getting enveloped back into Mando. And this, when it was out, like when it was being developed, Mando was signed to it.
mhm.
They completely cut any form of having a Mandalorian show up in this show.
Yeah, which was weird to me because why would you
Yeah.
sign him up for this? But then here's the thing also. We didn't like how Mando took over Boba's show, right?
Hmm.
Maybe they learned their lesson,
Maybe.
you
Well, maybe
know?
that was all part of John coming in and cutting out,
Yeah.
so much stuff. That this to me feels like a season that the episodes were probably longer to begin with,
Mhm.
and then they cut them down. And then they
Possibly.
also cut down the series as well.
Yeah,
It
because it did feel kind
feels
of
to me
rushed.
like there was more to this. Like it was a bigger thing, and then they were just kind of like, drink it
Yeah,
in, give it to us.
I could
Like
see that.
that's it.
Totally see that. Which is a shame. But here's my thing on this, right? And I think this is something that Dave Filoni and John Favreau have said that they want to start doing going forward. Less shows for Star Wars. Okay. Take all of that budgeting and make a great show. That's all I'm asking. Give
Yep.
us a great show. I don't need 4 or 5 shows a year for Star Wars. You know what I mean? Give me greatness. And as Star Wars fans, we haven't gotten that in a long time, with the exception of Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Mando, which was a whim, which was kind of nice because Mando
Yeah.
was something that we were like, are we gonna like this? But it was about something that we've always wanted to know more about, the Mandalorian culture. So it worked out. But I don't want anything else. These side stories, if they're not tied to the bigger picture, because again, I don't see these kids being a tie to the bigger picture. And like you said, it probably could be because they were, and it just took a lot of stuff
Yeah.
out. But there's
Oh,
rumors
and I
that these
feel
kids
like
will pop back in later in the future. But for what?
yeah, I feel like if you somehow crammed a Mandalorian or Mando into this show, it would feel like he's crammed in there.
Yeah, you're forcing it.
Yeah.
You're forcing Mando, and granted, we love Mando, we love Grogu, but the shows need to be able to stand alone on their own. You know,
Hmm.
it needs to be its own entity. But if that's the case, if you can't make that without having the concept of throwing in Mando and Grogu, don't make the show. Just don't make it.
Yeah.
Because
I
if
feel
you
like
did
the
a
only
thing
way you could do it is if they're the ones that come and save them in the end.
exactly, and if you did that, then it would have been like, well, that's cool. Throw a little sprinkle of Mando Grogu, and at that point, you keep doing that, it's just gonna get tiresome.
Yeah.
All you're gonna do is start milking these characters, and then we're gonna get tired of seeing them.
Yep.
Which I don't know if that's gonna be true because we all love seeing Mando and Grogu, but I feel like it's a cop out for writers.
Well, yeah. That's where it leads to just poor writing because it's, oh
Yeah,
hey, let's, and that's honestly where like I will get tons of hate for this. I don't want to see Luke in a lot of shows. I don't want to honestly see a Luke series
no.
because if you do, it's going to get really tiresome and boring and terrible.
Well,
And
I think
it will be more of an opportunity for you to mess it up than do it right.
yeah, because I mean there was stuff that Luke was doing at this time, but it kind of got all thrown out the window with the what was it, the Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of ruined Luke's persona for all of us, and they tried to redeem it, but I don't think we're past that point. We're at the point of like we don't even want to think about that part of Luke right now. We want to see what happens with Thrawn, with Ahsoka, with um, you know, Balin's skull, and like
Yeah.
all these characters that we just learned about, that are following Ahsoka's storyline and following Anakin's storyline. Because I think at the end of the day, man, keep Star Wars revolving on the chosen one. I feel like that's the route. That's the route. I
Yep.
don't want anything else besides that. Unless you're gonna make Grogu some type of chosen Mando Jedi and he becomes the new Tar or Pre Vizsla, that'd be kind of cool. But
That'd be
I wanted
interesting.
to, yeah, I wanted to be in the Star Wars lore that we already have. I don't really care for all this extra stuff.
Yeah.
Really don't need it.
Yeah. Agreed. You know, and I feel like this show has been outside of like Star Wars the Wars,
Hmm.
and it's also been outside of like Star Wars the lore,
Right.
you know? Like to me, Star Wars either has to be a big giant galactic battle war going on, the resistance, the rebellion, these two warring entities, or it needs to be heavy lore, the Jedi, the mysticism. That's why like Mando works because Mando is full cult. If
Yeah.
Mando was just a bounty hunter that's not like fully into this like mystic cult, so much would have been lost.
Yeah.
The reveal of his face would mean nothing. It's just he's just a bounty hunter going around collecting bounties, killing people. Oh wait, he ends up having to save this one and becoming attached to it. Like, but the fact that he actually is in this like mystic cult makes it so much better.
Yeah.
This show just being okay, where in the beginning people were like, "Oh, this is going to be like Stranger Things, like Star Wars Stranger Things," which was going to be a little bit more mystic and interesting. It just turned out to be the Goonies and Treasure Planet mashed together.
Yeah. I mean, if it was more Stranger Things like, I probably would have been down for it. It would have had I don't know, maybe it would have been better. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. My take is it's not a terrible show. Uh, I feel like this was if I was 10, 12, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. Than being who I am now and grown up with Star Wars and looking back at it going like this is a good show. Okay. It is what it is.
Yeah. I just want Star Wars to be what it was back in the day. Like we didn't have a lot of Star Wars shows. You know, we had Clone Wars. That was literally the only thing running for Star Wars in between this hiatus. Then you go to Rebels. That was all we had through that hiatus. You know what I mean? And they were
Mhm.
good quality shows. They were stuff that it was thought out. It was methodically written, and it kept true to the lore of everything that was happening. Then you get into Star Wars Resistance, which was another animated show that nobody talks about. It was straight trash. You know what I
That was
mean?
terrible.
It was so bad. You know what I mean? They went away from the animation style, which was a loss for me instantly.
Totally.
And it was more about racing.
I was down for the first half of that season, and then just it lost me.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Couldn't develop the characters enough. Like honestly, same thing with this show. Couldn't develop the characters enough.
no, no. My only downfall for all of this is that at some point Star Wars is going to have nothing to write about.
Mm.
And that's going to be a dark, sad day. Dark, sad day. Because, like, what else are you gonna make up? All the stuff that they made that they were trying to step out of the box with has failed. Anything that was originally set up and planned by George Lucas and Dave Filoni has thrived. And
Yeah.
I think they're just, I don't know. I don't understand how they don't realize that the answer to your problems is George Lucas and Dave Filoni. If you use those two guys, we will get quality Star Wars back. But if you don't use those guys, and John Favreau, throw him in there too, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
But if you don't use those three guys, we're gonna get crap. We're gonna get shows we don't care about. And then you're gonna get mad because the Star Wars fans are not caring about your stuff. Fix the problem. Fix the problem. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
George.
Oh man, hot takes by George. But I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. You definitely, and the only other thing is the stuff that has been working is based on things that are beloved within the fan universe,
Mhm.
are beloved within that extended fan universe, not canon, but that fan universe that they've taken and elevated to canon because they want to show love to them.
Mhm.
You know, it's just like the 501st. What is the 501st? 501st was put into Star Wars because of the fan organization that grew from the love of Star Wars and became this fantastic uh, organization that does good in the community and is out there, you know, bad guys for good that
Mhm.
are doing fantastic fundraisers and bringing joy to a lot of kids, a lot of adults, a lot of everyone,
Right.
you know, and building fantastic looking replicas
Who
of
do
their
man?
armors.
I want one of their suits, man. But they're too expensive.
I want to build one.
I
I don't
know.
have the time and the money right now
Yeah,
to do
no,
it.
no. Thank you, inflation. You're
You know,
killing my
it is
nerdy
crazy,
dreams.
you know, but like that's the kind of things that are getting that when they get elevated, do amazing, and we love
Yeah.
because it's the nod to the fans. It's the okay, this is what we want to say. You know, I think Acolyte has killed any chance of us seeing Darth Revan.
Shoot, that's a deal breaker for me, man, because
You know,
the potential for that show, once they showed Plagueis, it was like, oh snap, the doors to this like new story is setting up. And they couldn't do it. They rather
and
have
they
a freaking
slam
Sith
those
with his
doors
shirt
shut.
off. It was
You know,
disgusting.
I don't think this show has hurt anything like Acolyte has.
No, and that's what I
I think
said.
when
Acolyte,
people go back and watch this show, which some people are going to find it and go back and watch it, and somebody is going to find it that is passionate about Star Wars because their kid is going to be on Disney Plus and going to be like, "Hey mom, hey dad, what's this Skeleton Crew show?" And they may have or may have never watched it and they sit down with their kid and watch it and go, it's Star Wars for kids. It's all right. It's not terrible.
It is at that point.
You know, I don't think it will hurt Star Wars.
No.
I don't think it has elevated Star Wars in any sort of way.
I mean, the good thing is this show could be an introduction into Star Wars for some.
Could be, yeah.
It could be. You know, I'm not saying it can. It has potential. You know, if a kid sees it, like you said, and they're going to be like, "Ooh, a lightsaber. What's that?" And then they start diving into the lore of a lightsaber, and they're like, "Oh, Jedi's and Sith. Oh," and then they wind up seeing stuff about Clone Wars, and they say the original trilogy and all that stuff, and then they start diving in. It's a potential.
Definitely.
So, on this rating for this show, I think I'm going to give Skeleton Crew like a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10?
Yeah.
I will probably give it a 6.
You're always optimistic.
It's a little. I am always optimistic, but I feel like it is not a bad show, but it is not a show like it's not deserving a 7, 8, or 9. Like,
no,
I feel like it. You know what? The part of me that is elevating it to a 6 is saying like it looks Star Wars. The kids did a good job.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to hurt the kids that played these characters. I don't want to hurt any of the actors that have actually participated in this. Like, they produced a good product. It wasn't hot garbage. It wasn't terrible.
Well,
they did good. It looked good. It sounded good. The story is what the writers are the only ones that need to get a bad rep for this show because they did not do their job. Everyone else did. They did it.
I guess what you're saying that I'll up my score 5.1.
5.1. Even the little
one. Oh, sorry, I had to do it.
Making me laugh.
So your mic went out. Where'd you go?
Oh, I had to. I'm still getting over a little something here.
Oh,
so,
gotcha.
Nobody wants to hear me hacking.
No. All right, man.
Making me laugh too much about it.
Hey, listen, 5.1 is a solid score, okay?
5.1 is a solid score.
Solid.
Yes. All right, George. Any final comments?
Yeah, so real quick, guys, I do want to put it out there. Again, we talked about Larry having some family issues, but we also want to talk about Mike. So for those of you that don't know, Mike went through an accident. He is in the hospital. So if you guys can give up some prayers and keep Mike in your thoughts, keep Larry and his family in your thoughts. That's why we kind of been tied up a little bit with a lot going on. But yeah, if you guys can give out some prayers and thoughts to those two guys, we greatly appreciate it. So I got it.
That's fine. Yeah, I completely ditto that as well. Two great guys going through some stuff right now. Definitely send your hearts and prayers out to them as well. But the geeks in the new year have a lot going on. There are a lot of shows, so be tuned. Drop comments whether you liked this show or not, whether you actually took the time to watch it or not, or just said, I'm going to pass. Or if we've maybe even changed your mind and moved your rating up to a 0.1.
Yeah!
As well. So drop those comments down. We do want to hear from you guys more. We want to interact with you guys a whole lot more. Comment, like, subscribe so you stay up to date with us. We're going to have more of the regular podcast out. Also going to have a lot more of these shorter reviews of the TV shows that are coming out this year. I know Kev is excited. I'm also excited. I think George is very excited for it as well. The Spider-Man show that's going to be coming out. So that will most likely be the next short episodes that you see.
That drops tomorrow. The 29th.
Comes out.
Let's
quick.
go.
Yeah. So comment, like, and subscribe. And of course, make sure you grab that chair, bring it up to the table. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the table.